What's up guys, welcome to the Chess Giant. This is Solomon Ordell, and in today's video we cover another animal chess opening. So far on this channel we've covered a ton of stuff, like the crab opening, elephant gambit, fried fox defense, pterodactyl defense, whale variation, and so many more. But today we continue this series by covering the wild bull defense, which is an absolutely terrible response for black against the move e4. And I mean, there's so many good chess opening systems here with the French, e5, Pirc, Scandinavian, Caro-Kann, Sicilian, Owen's defense, modern defense, even throw in Caro-Kann or Nimzowitsch. There's so many good moves, but we decided to play none of these and play the move knight h6, reaching the wild bull defense. Many wondering what on earth is going on, and to be completely honest, I can't tell you. I don't know why anyone would ever want to play this move, besides the fact that this is a animal chess opening, and if you win this against a friend, there you have some serious bragging rights. Usually against this move knight h6, you're going to see a move like d4, and I thought in today's video, look, you probably shouldn't play this move. In fact, I know you shouldn't, but if you ever do find yourself in this position against a friend, how do you play this game? Well, we're going to start off by playing the move e6, and right away we see one of the major downsides of playing this knight to h6. On top of it just not being a very active piece, white does have that opportunity to just take it right off with the bishop. And now the very next move, we see that black has double isolated pawns on the h-file. If white continues with a move here like queen d2, we're now going to play bishop g7, and the very next move, fight for the center of the board with d5, putting a little bit of pressure on that e-pawn. Now white has a few different options here. What happens though if white pushes the pawn? This is the first move that we're going to cover, and just in general guys, if you're playing with white against the wild bull defense, I don't recommend hardly ever pushing our pawn to e5, especially in a situation like this. Yes, it may look good and it may seem as if this bishop is not very active, but now we see that these pawns on d4 and e5 are potentially a little bit overextended and really become big targets, starting off with the move c5, putting pressure on d4, putting pressure on e5. Notice here, if a move like f4, we can continue by taking the pawn, castling kingside, f6, knight c6 ideas in the air, and if black takes the pawn on c5, it may seem as if after bishop takes e5 and queen takes h6, white has simply went up a pawn, but now we play this move queen a5, double attacking the knight on c3, attacking the pawn on c5, d4 options in the air, and white is very close to losing this game if they are not very careful. So again, y'all, if white does take this pawn on c5, don't worry about that pawn on h6. Simply take that centralized pawn on e5, have queen a5 ideas in the air, and we're just playing chess. What happens though if white plays a move like knight b5? This may seem very intimidating, especially because of knight d6 check ideas. So here we're just going to castle kingside. And here if white continues with a move like f4 and now play f6, again guys, we need to put a ton of pressure on white's center as much as we possibly can. And here if white continues with a move like knight f3, we can now play a6, attacking this knight. Up to this point, white has had a few opportunities to play this move knight d6, but really whenever this move is played, this knight is more of a target for us than anything else. For example, in this position, we can simply take that pawn on d4, and white can fall into trouble very quickly here. For example, if white does take the pawn on d4 with the queen, all of a sudden we just play knight c6, attacking this queen, and then the very next move, capture on e5. And here if a move like f takes e5, capture the pawn yet again. If we see this move knight takes c8, we have knight takes f3 with tempo, followed by taking that minor piece, and we're simply better there. And if white takes the knight on e5, we have queen takes d6, double attacking this knight on e5, a very active rook on f8. Once this knight moves, we're going to have a very active bishop on g7, pouncing down on the b2 pawn. We have queen b4 check ideas in the air, and black has a very nice game ahead of them. This position is simply crushing for the black camp. So y'all, following the line in which white takes on h6 and then sees this move d5, I don't really recommend that white plays this move e5 because of c5 ideas, and these centralized pawns just don't have a ton of protection, and black's going to have a ton of potential counterplay. What happens if white just continues to develop or even captures the pawn on d5 and then just castles queenside? I do think that this is a much better option for white, and against this now, we're simply going to castle kingside. No guys, I do not usually recommend castling when you have double isolated and isolated pawns, but right now we don't really have much of a choice. And to be completely honest, this pawn on h6 is absolutely terrible, but at the same time, it's going to be hard for white to really take advantage of this immediately because they've already given up their dark squared bishop, and this pawn on h6 can't really be attacked by much at all at this point. besides the queen on d2. If white continues with a move like bishop d3, we can now play knight c6, just continue to develop, play a move like bishop e6, and if a move like f4 is ever played, we can stop this f5 idea by playing f5 ourselves. Obviously, this makes our bishop a tall pawn on e6, but it is the price that we need to pay to stop this pawn from pushing any further and also limiting the activity of this bishop on d3. If we see a move like rook h to e1, we can now continue with a6, taking away the b5 square. If knight a4 is played trying to get into c5, we can play b6, taking away that square as well. We can now continue with moves like queen d7, queen d6, bringing a rook to e8, really trying to fight for the open file. And here white is much better, probably a nearly +1 advantage, but even then, we do have a fighting chance in this game. And if you can win this position against a friend, you have some bragging rights right out the gate. So y'all, that covers the move bishop takes h6, which you're probably going to see a ton. In that case, just take that bishop back. You're going to have the bishop pair, play bishop g2, ready to play d5, and against e5, continue with c5, really putting a ton of pressure in the center of the board. And in any case, we're going to castle kingside and just play chess, try to hang on, and maybe even fight for the win. Now, what happens if white doesn't capture the knight on h6 and instead plays a move like knight c3? Going, look, this knight is very awkwardly placed. It's not going to a square like g4 or f5 anytime soon. Let me just naturally develop my pieces and see how black responds. Well, against this, we're still going to play the move d5, putting pressure in the center. And yet again, it's not a good idea for white to play this move e5. It may seem as if white is really getting a ton of space, but here, guys, we play knight f5, and all of a sudden, with the wild bull defense, we have an improved French defense, putting pressure on d4. As the very next move, we can play c5 and continue now with bishop e7, knight c6. We have a ton of pressure on this centralized pawn. We have ideas like castling kingside and queen b6 on the way. We're just playing chess, and honestly, I have black in this position. If we ever see the move g4, we don't need to be worried about this knight getting trapped because we have knight h4 ideas in the air as both the bishop and the queen defend and attack that square. And we're just playing chess. We got nothing to worry about. So again, y'all, I don't really recommend that white hardly ever push this pawn to e5 against the wild bull defense, especially when this knight is on h6 because that f5 square becomes available. What happens if white continues with a move like bishop d3? Well, we're simply going to take that pawn, and even if bishop takes e4 is played, going to continue with knight f5, really trying to activate this knight, putting some pressure on the d4 pawn, and we don't really need to be too worried about white taking our knight. Here we are up the bishop pair, and yes, these pawns are doubled, but it's really hard for white to take advantage of these pawns, and black does have a very playable game, even if white plays the move queen e2, trying to take advantage of our somewhat underdeveloped position by playing the move bishop g5 against bishop e7. Again, we're completely okay. We're just going to play the move knight c6, and against the move d5, no need to freak out and play a move like knight b8 or knight a5. We're simply going to castle kingside. Very nice idea. Whole idea being, if white takes our knight, thank you for the bishop on g5, and if white takes our bishop on e7, we're not going to take back with the queen because we're simply going to lose a piece, but get our knight out of the threat of getting captured, putting pressure on d5, and honestly right now, looking to play knight g6 with knight f4 and knight e5 ideas in the air. Rook e8 is a good possible option, really just trying to bring this rook to the open file. We have natural moves like queen d7 or queen d6, bishop d7, even c6, trying to break this game open. We're just playing chess, and from a practical standpoint, I would rather have black in this position. So y'all, against the move like bishop takes f5, just take back, play moves like bishop e7, knight c6, castle kingside. We have nothing at all to worry about. What about the move knight f3? Well, against this, we're now going to play bishop e7, and yet again, just continue to play natural developmental chess. And if a move like bishop f4, continue with a move like h6, and against a move like rook e1, putting this rook on the semi-open file, just continue with bishop d6. Our position is a little bit cramped, so why not try to trade off these minor pieces? Here in this position, we have ideas like knight d7 and knight f6, attacking that bishop on e4. Very nice maneuver from black, and yes, I still think that white is better, probably about a +1 advantage when you plug this into a computer program. But even then, black does have a fighting chance. We're going to continue to play chess and continue to try to find opportunities to fight for the win. If you'd like to learn how to play the sodium attack, a very similar opening, but for the white pieces, click the video to the left. If you'd like to learn how to play the Pirc Defense for black, which is actually a good opening, click the video to the right. Leave a comment down below to let me know what other videos you'd like to see covered on this channel. And as always, I appreciate you guys. Thanks for watching. Peace.